I feel like as a young leader, I just always, first of all, ask God for guidance and wisdom, because without him, I don't know, I wouldn't be here, first of all. And then I just always look up to my elders, the church leaders, and I always, respect them for what they do, because I've always had respect for older people, not just because they're older, but because they have a respectful demeanor.
In today's episode, you're going to meet Abby, an incredible young lady, very determined, National Guard, studying to be an architect, and is still a leader at the church. A truly inspiring story. I know you're going to love it. Welcome to Tea Talks. Abby, I am so happy that you're here. I met you just a couple months ago. It wasn't that long.
Not too long ago.
No, not too long ago. And we were having a meeting and I saw you speaking and I was like, wow, that is an impressive young lady.
Thank you.
And I was like, I need to get her on my podcast.
Well, here I am.
I'm really glad that you accepted the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. So let's start getting to know you a little better. Who you are.
Well, I am a 20-year-old, currently in the Army National Guard here in North Carolina.
Nice.
Yes. This is about 2 years now. So
Okay.
I've been in there. I'm also
How do you like that?
It's good.
Yeah.
I can't complain. God leads us in different directions. I never thought I
Yes.
would be in the military, but I think I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot about others, especially in an environment that's not really Christian. But God has kept me through, and I'm just grateful for all of that. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm going.
I interrupted you. What else about you?
Well, I'm also in my second year of college. I'm
Okay.
currently starting my sophomore year, and I'm a little bit excited. Getting
What are
further
you
my
going to
education.
college for?
Well, I'm wanting to study architecture.
Nice.
Yes, that's my goal. That's my
very,
goal.
very
Yes.
nice. How was growing up? Did you grow up in a Christian family? How was that?
So I did grow up in a Christian family. I will say that I did not grow up with my biological family, because
Okay.
my biological family is really in Jamaica. Most of them are in
Okay.
Jamaica. So I grew up around church family, which were also
Okay.
Jamaicans. So they were really like my family for me.
Okay.
We all were from the church, and
How did it happen that your biological family is there and you were here?
Okay, so my mother and my father, they migrated to America, and then they had me. So therefore, all my other family is still in Jamaica.
Okay, so you had your parents
Yes,
here.
yes,
Okay,
my parents moved
okay.
here.
I wasn't sure if you were adopted by somebody
No.
here or okay, you mean like the rest of your
Yes,
family?
the rest of my family.
Got it,
yes.
got it, got it. It's similar to me. My husband and I are the only ones here.
Oh, okay.
The rest of our entire family are back in Brazil, where I'm from.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
But you had a family, like a church family
Yes.
that was always part of you growing up and all of
Yes.
that. How was it growing up? How did you feel growing up in a Christian family?
Honestly, I loved it. I didn't know anything else. Even now, I can say I don't know anything else, because I'm still surrounded by church family. Yes, I've moved a couple of times, but everywhere I go, I still find that loving church family that I consider my own family. I consider them my uncles and aunties and my cousins. So again, I did grow up in a very loving and positive Christian environment.
That is wonderful. We don't always hear that. So I really enjoy when I hear that. Did you ever have moments where you were a little rebellious or doubting about God? Did you ever have moments where you questioned your parents' religion, the church, something like that? Or you were one of those people that, no, never?
Well, I will say that I think for every Christian, you do go, you have those moments where you're like, is this really, what God is all about, but personally, I can say, yes, I've had the thoughts, but by reading the Bible, going to church and talking to other Christians, I realized the truth. So even every now and then, yes, you have doubts, especially when you're going through something really rough, you're going through uncertainty. You have those moments of doubt, but then you just look at the world and you're like, God has to be in all of this. Despite what you may be going through, your ups and your downs, God has to be in all of this. Now, when it comes into specifically my type of Christianity and my family, I will say that there were moments where I was like, this is a very interesting religion. And it's not your normal religion. And but it never made me feel like it was wrong, because again, I read my Bible and I just stumble upon the truth every time and time again. And I'm like, this is the truth.
This is biblical.
Yes. And I love the truth. I can't do nothing. I love the truth. There ain't nothing better than the truth. So, yeah.
Now I'm going to challenge you a little. In a world that truth is relevant, as a young person, going to National Guard, going to college, how do you deal with that?
Well, first, I always
have you had challenges, basically?
Challenges. I'll say my biggest challenge was when I was actually in basic training.
Okay.
Church was not all that. I go to church on Saturdays. They had church on Sundays. I was like, okay, Lord, I'm here, but I'm going to need your guidance. And there were times when the environment is not Christ-friendly at all. I know they say the United States is Christian, but
it used to be. I don't think it is anymore.
I know we say the money has God on it, but it's not all that anymore. But I did have moments where I was like, Lord, I'm probably not keeping your commandments as well as I should. And I knew it and I felt it. And it kind of brought me down a little bit, and it made me disappointed in myself because I knew what I should have been doing. I knew what was right. So in those moments, I just always had to just pray and talk to God and talk to myself, because at the end of the day, I had to tell myself, Abigail, you know better. And not in a you know better, shame on you, but you knowing better will help you be better. Because when you start straying away from God, life gets more miserable. And I hate misery. I don't know about you, but I don't like misery. I don't think anyone does. Exactly. So in order to be a better Christian and personally enjoy life better, the life that God has given me, I try to stay on the straight and narrow, because it just makes life more happy. So that's really my challenge. Was also me battling myself, telling myself I need to do better, but also not hating myself, because I'm not perfect and I know that. But because of God, I can always try and do better, and He still loves me no matter what.
Do you see the church is evolving? And if you do, what role do you think young adults play?
Personally, I do. I do see a change, especially in my church. I am one of probably 5 young adults, really specifically ages 18 to 35.
So the majority are either very young or older?
Yes. Now we do have a couple of teenagers and we have a couple little kids, but it is mainly an older congregation. And I will say that the older congregation does lead the church more. We had a new pastor come in. He was like, oh, we're going to have youth Sabbath. And the first elder came to me. He was like, we have a new pastor coming. He wants a youth department. Abigail, will you be able to do it? And honestly, I was very happy. I was excited, not only for the youth program, but the fact that they saw me as a young leader.
Yes.
Even though I'm just 20. And if you ask me, that's younger than most youth leaders.
Yep.
So I was very happy to get the call. And I was able to work with the few others that we have in the church, and they were all excited as well. I see that growth in my church, and I bet in other churches too, you can see that growth. So I was pretty excited, and I'm still excited because it's continuing to go on and it's continuing to grow. And even being here shows that we are evolving as a church.
Absolutely. I think this is already a step forward.
Most definitely.
You do. I went to visit your church and I was very excited for what I was seeing. You have a great pastor. You have people that are investing in young people. So you guys are already doing a lot of good things. So how was it for you being in a church that, I would say before, because now it's a little different, but before, how was it for you being in a church that the majority of the people were older?
Okay, so I grew up as an only child. Well, I am an only child. And I would always listen to the older adults. So it wasn't weird for me. I did not feel excluded in the sense that they didn't want me there, but I felt as if they wanted church their way. Now it's getting a little bit better. I will say that they're also very welcoming. I feel like they needed that door to open for them to realize, yes, the young people are here and we're willing to learn. The older folk, they're welcoming. I will say that at my church, and I'm grateful for that. So it wasn't a bad feeling. It was just more of they're older. I respect that. But now I'm like, the youth are here. you know,
And yeah, we're here.
Mhm.
We're ready.
Yeah, we are. We just need a little bit of guidance, you know, always
Exactly.
guidance. But
Exactly.
yeah,
I think if they're good, if they're not like judgmental or mistreating the young people, basically it's just discouraging because you wanted to be with people of your own
yes,
age,
yes.
but
Mhm.
being raised as the older child, you kind of already had that experience.
Yeah,
So
I
it
was
wasn't
like,
that horrible.
It wasn't.
So now you're leading.
Yeah.
Now you're a young leader in the church. You lead the youth department.
Yes.
What are the challenges?
The challenges, honestly, it is nothing to do with people at all.
No.
The challenge is organizing because it takes a lot. Also, at my young age, you know, everyone has anxiety. There's not just church, there's also school. I have a little bit of army as well to always think about as well. But for me, the biggest challenge is organizing, making sure that you tell people things in advance, because I personally don't like springing up things on people. I think it's more of a personal thing. I always like things to the T. I always like to make sure that people have things in advance, you know, especially when I'm planning Youth Sabbath. I always make sure, you know, a month in advance. For the speakers, I would prefer for them to know 2 months in advance, because at the end of the day, I want the Lord to use you, but I don't want you to be pressured. So for me, I really think it's just organizing as a young leader. But again, I also have a co-leader as well, and he helps as well with organizing and planning stuff. And I always love feedback. That's the thing. Our age group, we love to talk amongst each other. Like a lot of times the older people are like, oh, they don't want to talk to us. But trust me, we'll talk to each other. And if we feel comfortable with the older generation, we will talk to you too. And I feel like as a young leader, I just always, first of all, ask God for guidance and wisdom, because without him, I don't know, I wouldn't be here, first of all. And then I just always look up to my elders, the church leaders, and I always, you know, respect them for what they do, because I've always had respect for older people, not just because they're older, but because they have a respectful demeanor.
My next question was actually related to what you were already talking about. Like, what do you see the value of the intergenerational relationships?
I feel like we need the older generation. Like 100% we do need them, because again, when you're a child, you need your parent. Now, they might not be my parents, but they are leaders in the church. And as a young leader, I'm trying to be a leader like them, or a better leader than I am right now. So I believe that is very important, but also they need the youth as well, because we are advancing. Now, I'm not saying to change anything. Like, the Bible is the Bible. God is God. You know, I'm not saying we should over here be doing the most in church, you know, just acting a fool, nothing like that. And that's also where guidance comes in from the older generation. But the younger generation is also there to help with broadcasting, especially. I feel like we know how to connect social media wise. And with the older generation, they can guide us into what is not necessarily best, but what is appropriate, and their maturity, their wisdom can help guide us, so we're not just loose. You see what I mean? Because a lot of times as young people, again, we don't know everything. My frontal lobe is not developed. I'll be the first person to say that. But with their guidance and with our technology, I feel like a lot of times youth bring a lot of technology. Okay,
Learning from each other.
There, we both have things that right now we don't have it, and I'm not gonna lie, the older generation struggles in that technology department.
Yep.
So we both have things that can help us both uplift each other.
And there is a great misconception that people think that young people, like you said, oh, they think that we don't want to talk to the older generation, but we talk to each other. But I know you guys do like to talk to the older generation too, you know? The problem is when they feel judged, is when they shut down. But I do believe that it's essential to have all different generations in the church, because that's how we grow, you know, learning from each other. What would you say to this? Let's go to churches and church leaders. What would you say to churches that are struggling with getting the youth, the young adults involved? What is your advice to them?
to get the young adults involved. Well, personally, I've always wanted to be involved in church, so I can't personalize this. But I would say, first of all, let them know that they can be heard. Let them feel comfortable. Now, at the end of the day, you can't force anybody to do something that they don't want to do. But also as young adults, we have to realize that we need to listen and learn, because a lot of us do tend to be stubborn. Not all of us. We cannot generalize it. But I will be honest, I'm talking about my own friends that I know. So I'm saying this from personal experience. We do tend to be stubborn and be like, man, I don't really want to listen to them, They think they know everything. They're boring. A lot of times it's about the boring. But what they need to understand is, yes, the older generation is boring. But at the end of the day, you guys used to be young too. Like, older generation used to be young too. Remember what you probably wanted when you were young, and try and connect that to the generations now. Yes, times have changed. When the older generation was younger, it was different from now. But the best thing to do to help is to connect. Make them know that they are loved, they are heard, and that they are willing to understand. Because if the older generation is not willing to hear you out, if they're not willing to hear us as young adults out and listen to us and be able to change, nothing's going to happen. And same with the young adults. If you are not willing to hear them out, if you're not willing to listen to their guidance, nothing can happen. So there has to be compromise from both generations.
Yep. Learning from each other, giving opportunities to each other, giving like the benefits of the doubt, talking. I loved it. Abby, this was great.
Okay. It was.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come here to talk and to allow me to get to know you a little better. Thank you.
It was
so
fun.
much.
It was so much fun.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Thank you.